Episode 14, pre-match mix. We're well into it. It's me and Carl on tonight. Kate's going to be joining us with some bets. But firstly, we're going to talk about Liverpool. Not that we want to, because it's a load of shit, but we're going to have to talk about them. So here we go. Thing to note, we're recording this on Tuesday. All the Champions League matches are happening on Wednesday. So by the time this is released on the Friday, you'll be able to see whether our predictions have actually come true. So, Carl, any predictions, early ones that you want to get out the door?
No, you want to be predicting a win tomorrow, haven't you? So you definitely got to go for the win and try and cement that top four slot, and certainly the last 16. Interesting on the lineup, I was looking at the who trained today, and I thought it was quite interesting. But training from our defenders, we had four defenders trained today. We had Kirkes, Robbo, Frimpong, and Virgil van Dijk. So we're down to just four for the match tomorrow. And I suppose what's interesting for me is transfer deadlines on Monday, isn't it? So question I'd throw at you straight away, Fiend, would be, do you think we'll sign anyone before the deadline comes?
Quite simply, no. There's no chance. He's already made those noises before in press conferences. Slaughter's not in control of that. We know that. That's Richard Hughes, and the purse strings are controlled further up the chain. So it's going to be a difficult time without another defender. Obviously, Gomez injured at the weekend. That's going to cost us a game. So as for the centre-back pairing tomorrow, looks like it's going to be Endo and Van Dijk, unless anyone can prove otherwise.
Yeah, do you think Slott's trying to spin a bit more of this back on Hughes now? Almost in his recent press conferences, he's starting to say about how small the squad is, and he's not got the body, he's not got the numbers. Initially you're thinking, I mean, we've been on about the squad all season, but you're thinking, well, you let Elliott go, and you let Quansah go, and you let Tyler Morton go, and you let Diaz go. But is he trying to say that it isn't me that let them go, it's Richard Hughes? Do you think he's trying to spin a bit of pressure on him here, or?
Well, I think he made a bit of noise at the start of the season when we made all the transfers, and Slot was very clear about the transfers that came in weren't new transfers, they were replacements. And in some cases, that is true. So Frimpong was a direct replacement for Trent. You could argue Vert was a replacement for Diaz. So there was merit. Kirkes obviously coming in to ultimately replace Robertson in that sense. Obviously, we missed out on Guay, which was a real disappointment. And again, I think some of the frustration from a lot of Liverpool supporters is that why were we not getting Guay and nailing that down on the 1st of Jan? Why then let him go to City? Obviously, there's been discussions in the background. There's no way Liverpool could compete with a 300 grand a week wage bill. But surely when you were that close, and Guay said it this week about the medical was done. We got pulled lastminute.com. Surely you've got that goodwill there to go, we're still going to make sure this happens. And they could have just almost signed a pre-contract in August, September. So I think that's the frustration from Liverpool supporters. Again, it's the dilly-dally and it's the messing about. It's the not getting it over the line, which really frustrates.
Yeah, I also think as well, surely you must have a plan B and a plan C if that does fall apart, because Gomez has got injury problems. We've known that for the past two seasons, haven't we? Canate is making noises that he's not going to sign rather than he's going to sign. And obviously the young centre-half, I know we did get in and he got injured. So you've got all this preparation time. It's a long season, isn't it? Surely we must have had a plan B and plan C. So I wonder whether FSG are just thinking, let's hold out till the summer now. We don't want to give Hughes or Slot or anyone any money. But it's not about Hughes or Slot. It's about the squad and the club. They need another centre-half. When we spoke about it in the summer, we argued almost every week that they needed two centre-halves. Yet they got the young lad in, Leone, didn't they, in the end? But we always thought they needed two because they lost Quansah. And they only ever got the one in. So now Leone's gone. You're thinking they need two again. But they must need one, mustn't they, at least?
Absolutely need one. And, don't forget, Cole, we've got the World Cup coming. Everyone is going to hold out for a higher price after the World Cup, hoping that some of the players shine a bit of a light. And Liverpool have fell foul of it in the past. We all remember Alex Juve. That was a fucking disaster. So the mind boggles that we're not nailing someone down. And ultimately, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that. The players might not be there. But as you say, there's got to be a plan B and a plan C that they knew about before they lost out on Guay. So why not start to make those moves now? It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening from a supporter's point of view, and not knowing what's going on, and just ultimately seeing a transfer window wasted.
Well, I also think as well, the gambling a little bit on the Champions League place, aren't they? Because what we're saying is we're going to try and get by with Canate and Van Dijk. As Canate gets close to his contract finishing, yeah, will he carry on performing? And it sounds like you're going to say, okay, we'll use Gomez and Endo then as the two stopgap players. Robinson, mainly if need be, and Robinson's absolutely not a centre half, is he? He's trying to say he'll sit in there. And I think it's like you said, we almost went player for player because we lost Timikas, didn't we, to Roma, and that's who Kirkes came in for. So they sort of swapped them two. But I also think Slot or Hughes has gambled on last season because our injury record was so strong last season. It's a little bit arrogant to say that we're going to do it again for the second season with no injuries. We've sort of sussed this injury business out. We're confident we're not going to get any injuries because it's hard to go through 2 full seasons without any injuries. Never mind one or half, isn't it?
But we haven't, and that's been one of the key things this season. Isaac took forever to get up to speed. Viet took forever to get up to speed. Hook and Kirkes at the weekends because he's not fully fit, not playing Ekatike. These issues are still happening, and these are with players who haven't really, Viet has had a couple of knocks. Ekatike, he took knocks just because he's being battered. Kirkes, no one's really had a really rough injury in that sense. It's all been little, knocks and scrapes. So at this moment in time, no one's fit, and it's almost a bit of a question why is to go, well, what were we doing in the pre-season? What was being done to steal these players and get them ready? Because they know when the season starts, they know when the season ends, they know roughly how many games they're going to play. So how on earth did he not then factor in this in? Because at this moment, we're just looking at this team and it's almost like the physio's picking the squad half the time. And it's absolutely maddening. And Cole, you and I have had the conversation about, right back, for example, and I think Slot's trust in players comes into it as well. We've talked about, there's Bradley and there's Frimpong there, and, there's players behind him who, he doesn't turn to. He wants to play Jones and Szoboszlai at right back, and, that maddens us as supporters. We're just seeing, wasted opportunity in that sense. So, yeah, this fitness thing, I just think it's a bit of a myth, and it's just being played out all season. And I think now it's at the point where it's just beyond the joke, and it's now just becoming an excuse for some of the poor results.
Yeah, for the squad players, it's almost like when they're not getting played. So the young right back who's had a lot of injuries, hasn't he? Scottish lad, he's been on the bench a few times of late, but he's not been getting played neither. And when Endo's not getting picked and he's not getting picked, squad players must be thinking, what am I even doing here? You know what I mean? You're not going to play me in my proper position when the
Exactly.
first choice or second choice is injured. Interesting about the players, what you said as well, because I think Ekatike, who was signed, he clearly can't play 2 games in a week. So I don't know who's researched that and bought it. He's clearly got talent, but it's almost like they're still trying to build him up maybe for next season, which again begs the question: should we have paid all that money for someone who's not quite there yet? I don't know if you see on the overlap of John Barnes. When he was on it, I thought he was a brilliant guest on it. But one of the things he said was when he signed for Liverpool, he had 6 seasons at Watford. And he said also the likes of other players, Peter Beardsley, I think at Newcastle, he had 5 or 6 seasons. So we tended to buy players who we knew could do it game in, game out. They were almost, that inconsistency had almost went out of them. But some of these players who we've bought, Ekatike, for example, Kirkes, don't know how many seasons he had at Bournemouth, probably 2 or 3 tops, but they weren't really the finished article. I don't know, when you think about Gay, he's probably had 4 or 5 years at Palace, hasn't he? I think if you think about other players, I wouldn't even know who to compare. Rice at Arsenal when they bought him, probably had a few years at West Ham. So they're sort of, are they the players you should be going for, ones that are ready-made for the rigours of football every 3 days? I don't know.
Unfortunately, that's just not how Liverpool do business, and I think Gueye is a bit of an outlier in that sense. So Liverpool always want to buy potential. They want to buy at the right time in the right market. I think if you've got players who are wanting to stay at clubs like your Palaces, like your Villas, potentially, you've got Morgan Rogers, you've got Ollie Watkins, players like that. They're getting snapped up earlier because they don't want any of the other clubs to go in for them. So that's the challenge that Liverpool, I think, especially under FSG, have always had, and goes way back to like the Coutinho days. No one was in for him. Got him for 8 million, sold him for what 146. So yeah, I think that's Liverpool's disadvantage, but
Yeah,
also an advantage at the same time.
that's probably the point to make. And Watkins, he's probably had 5 or 6 seasons at Villa now, hasn't he? So if you were to buy him again, when we're spending 80 million on Ekatike, or we're spending 120 million on Wirtz, or we're spending 140 million on Isaac, although he has a few more seasons at Newcastle. Again, Watkins probably had 5 seasons at Villa, probably get him for less money again. Should that be more the model what we're working to when we're making these bigger transfers? I don't know.
As you say, that's the challenge in trying to do it. And Liverpool at this moment in time, Fabrizio Romano is talking about Jeremy Jacquet, and Liverpool are challenging for him with Chelsea and Bayern Munich. Can you see Liverpool winning that argument? Because I can't.
At the moment, yeah, probably not. Probably not. And then Alonso, how long do you reckon Slot's got in the tank if these results carry on? He's lost, hasn't he, in the last probably 10, 13 games. He went unbeaten, but there was loads of draws in there, wasn't he? I think Leeds he drawn and Burnley he drawn, and we got beat by Bournemouth. So again, I think his timeline for me is probably getting shorter and shorter unless he can string some wins together very, very quickly.
Yeah, totally agree. And I can see Kate's joined us. So, Kate, I'll come to you with this question in a little minute. But I think, as you rightly say, Cole, the timeline is getting shorter and shorter. If we get beat by Newcastle, and God forbid, if Liverpool get beat tomorrow by Karabag, because I say we're recording this on Tuesday, I think that could be it for him. He could get the bullet. I could see Gerrard potentially coming in on a short-term basis, and that nostalgia might galvanise the squad a little bit. Not to say Gerrard's the answer, because I don't think he is. I think he's proven that by the managerial post he's held before. But I think it might be a case of Alonso will probably want to just edge his bets and wait till he gets to the end of the season. He'll want to go to the World Cup, look at things, see what jobs happen at the end of the season, and see who gets sacked. Not to be thinking, there might be a bigger club than Liverpool who want to sign Alonso, and that's the worry. There's going to be some movers and shakers, and some at the end of the season. Like Sir Enrique's might just go, Joe, what I'm done, boys. I've had me fill. Thanks very much. And then Alonso might go into that kind of role. So I think there's loads of moving parts, but I think for me, Slot, if he's not on a knife edge, I think a lot of the goodwill has gone. And as one of our mates clearly pointed out, Cole, really potentially this rot has been happening since PSG last year when we got knocked out. Even though doing really well in the league, there's been loads of bad results. And I think more importantly, loads of bad performances. And that's the real kicker for me. The performances are really, really poor. How about you, Kate? What do you think about the current managerial situation? How do you see it playing out?
Um, yeah, I don't. I have a different view than everybody because I think everybody's used to when you go on a really poor run for a while. The next thing is that you move on from the manager. I think I don't think if they can't get Alonso in, I don't think his job is under threat until the end of the year. I don't personally think there's a world where they fire him and not have Alonso lined up or Enrique. I don't think they'd fire him and go pull Gerrard out of where he's at or anything like that. I understand the general view there, but FSG have been remember we had Brendan and Brendan was floating around. And it was like, why hasn't Brendan been fired the year before, the summer before? And then he went all summer, and then he started poorly, and it was like, what's going on? This is abnormal for England, at least, or abnormal for soccer in Europe in general. And then Klopp became available, and they got the yes from Klopp, and then Brendan was fired. I think that's a more American thing than that's something that's happened with the Red Sox. And I mean, there was a manager there they had a while, um, who everybody wanted fired, and he had survived another year and a half after that because they liked the process internally. So I don't know how they feel necessarily internally, but I don't personally think it's going to be fire him, find a random intern, and we'll see what happens going forward. I don't think they fire him unless they have a plan immediately after the fact.
Yeah,
I think as well, I think Alonso will want to wait until the summer. I think he'll want a fully fit side, a full pre-season with the team as well to try and put his stamp on things rather than coming halfway through. So I think Alonso will want to wait.
Yeah, that may be the case. He may want a different job. I'm pretty confident that PSG job is opening, so that'll be coveted by someone. But I also think Alonso's a pretty passionate fella who's really connected to his former clubs, and I think if it were to open and he wanted to manage, I don't think it would be a case of, do I want to go to PSG? Do I want to go to Liverpool? I'd feel pretty confident he'd want to be at a club he's been at before where people like him and you're going to get work out of. Like, the only reason he didn't succeed over in Real Madrid is because they're a bunch of spoiled kids who don't want to press up front. Like, that's not going to happen at Liverpool, and he knows the culture there and the type of people who are fans and the type of player who work, and I think he'd be pretty open to it.
Agree.
yeah. It's interesting you say about Red Sox and so on and so forth. Over there, Colin, I know you're not familiar with the sport, but Alex Cora enjoying well, I say enjoying a second stint. There's still, I hear loads of calls that he needs to go again. And,
Mm.
Cole, just to give you a bit of context on this guy had won the World Series with the Red Sox. He was then effectively sacked for sign stealing, and they got him back in. So he's currently the Red Sox manager. So, yeah, and I think the last couple of seasons have been really, really poor for the Red Sox. And I think there's a lot of noise this year if he doesn't do well in the playoffs, because they only just made the playoffs last time round and fell at the first hurdle. If he doesn't do well, he could be going as well. So they can be ruthless as well, FSG, when they want to be.
Mhm. It's it's just a little bit the culture in terms of getting rid of managers and coaches and things over here where their majority of their stuff is a lot different than it is where you guys are. As I said, Slot is like Slot is like 6 months removed from a title, you know? Like, if a coach in America were 6 months removed from a title, you're gonna give him like 2 years minimum to work it out. The timelines are just way different. So that's why I'm more inclined to think that unless something really goes bad or unless they have someone immediately lined up, I'm not so sure there's a ton of change.
It's an interesting point, Kate, and I think from someone who's going the game, and I touched upon a little bit before, the football is really, really poor at this moment in time, and
Mhm.
no one's really seeing any improvement in that. And I think that could be potentially the thing that does get him sacked. Results can improve and so on, but yeah, I think some of the passive play, the willingness to, on the face of it, appear to give up, really wrangles on the supporters, and there's definitely a bit of trepidation when you go in the game. So I'm going the game tomorrow, and we'll move on to Karabag in a little bit, because for me it's not a sure thing. Liverpool, they might be favourites to win the game, but I think Karabag are going to give them a real game.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, and you feel a little bit tense going into it, and like you give up. Like, I don't know how many times we said this. It's like every year or every game we're playing all right, and then someone makes a mistake. Happened in the game on Bournemouth. Van Dijk just miskicked that, and then thought it went out of play, and all that fell apart. And then you just feel like, and I get it. You just feel like the sinking feeling, like, again, right? Here we go again, type stuff. So I completely understand, and I'm not disagreeing that they're not playing poorly and stuff like that. It's just the process of the club has never really been, or not. It hasn't been for a little bit to, like, unless something's set, unless something is in line to, like, kind of just blow it up. It's similar, like when you guys were discussing before I popped in about having a plan B and a plan C and stuff like that. Like, Liverpool haven't had that in a bit either. Like, you were like, "Oh, we've got plan B. on a center back. Liverpool haven't done that in a bit. It's like when we had that stretch where we couldn't find a CDM, a player to play in front of the back four with Klopp, and you're like, well, just buy this, just buy this. Liverpool tend to stick to their, or the FSG and the current regime tend to stick to their process, regardless of, not like regardless of how supporters feel, but like, they can push through it a little bit.
Yeah, they done it a while back, didn't they? With some key signings going way back to Van Dijk and those sorts of players and waited. But I think the fact that Gay's gone, Canate's probably going, Gomez's injury record, they're going to have to face facts that they're going to need to move on to somebody, because I don't think the answers currently lie within the squad. And the other thing, again, which probably frustrates me a little bit at the moment, if you think back to a couple of years back when we won the League Cup. I seen a picture, I think, yesterday of us win the League Cup, and there was 6, 7, 8 youngsters holding that League Cup who played a part in all the roles. And I think 3 or 4 of them played in the final, and some come off the bench. And I think thinking back, there was obviously Elliott there and Quansah, but then there was Doak and there was Morton and there was Biszczek, wasn't he? And all these young players. And when you were watching it, you were thinking, these could come on over the next couple of years, and then they've been sold to the ones at the club, even through while we've had these injuries and stuff. None of them seem to be getting a look. And I don't think Slot's really one for developing young players. He seems to want just the ready-made players.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I don't know how it was at Feyenoord. I didn't personally go back and look at what that was like over there, but yeah, I would also say that all the talent that got shipped out of the young squad, there was talent there, but I'm not so sure talent to the point of like being a part of a team that wants to win 4 trophies. Like I really like Elliott, but Elliott can't play in a 3 in midfield. He just can't. He doesn't track back very well. He's not physically strong enough. He doesn't win tackles. It's very difficult for him to play in a 3. And he's just probably wasn't going to get on the pitch in the wide areas as much. And it's unfortunate what's happened to him. Well, really gross what's happened to him.
Yeah,
really,
you know what he does do it, in my opinion, Kurt. In them games, what we dominate, he sees a pass sometimes. He plays quite a clever pass, and he could open. So when Slot talks about his favourite word, low blocks and things, he's quite clever in and around the box. So those sort of games, I think he could have been quite useful.
Yes, I don't disagree there. I think I think they thought Wirtz would be ready from the get-go. I think Wirtz has been so much better recently, but from the get-go, it took him a little bit, and Elliott would have been for teams that are just going to sit back for sure.
He's looking a lot better Wirtz now, isn't he? He seems to have settled.
Yeah.
He's arguably been our best player the last 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think him, Shabazai and Ekatike, I think, have been our best players for about a month now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't love a ton of the players that had come out of the academy in terms of expectation, which is also another thing, speaking of when we were talking about the manager firing and the differences, because leagues are so much tighter over here that when you win a title, your expectation isn't like, your expectation is to be good and compete, but your expectation isn't necessarily win the title. It's very rare that you go back to back and stuff. That's also another thing that happens over there. But in terms of the player, I didn't particularly like. It'd be nice to have Quansah currently. I didn't particularly think Quansah was very good. I don't think he's very good now. Morton would be okay, but I guess they expected a little bit more out of Bajcetic and probably a little bit more out of maybe Gravenberch in that area. Gravenberch's been fine, but it's tough for him to be as good as he was last year, considering that's not a position he particularly likes playing anyway. So I didn't have necessarily an issue moving on with some of the younger kids, but you could use some of them now, I suppose.
yeah. More squad players, isn't it? I think that's definitely not first team starting every week. More squad players, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and the lack of being able to find a six is a big problem. This happened with Klopp as well. We went a year or two without being able to find a six, and it was like, please.
Yeah,
And then Fabinho showed up.
we all thought Slot was a genius when he put Gravenberch in there in that first season, didn't we?
Yeah, and he had no real choice, really. But yeah, he played really, really well, and that's nice. But at some stage, need a proper.
Here's a stat for you to finish off on. So Slot in his first 45 games, his win percentage was 75.6%. Slot in his next 45 games, his win percentage is 46.7.
Yeah, I'd personally written off the back end of last year. After we lost to PSG, it was like, no, they're not playing well, but we've won the league and we don't have anything else. So, but this year it's not been the same, obviously. And I think he's struggled because I think he came into the year wanting to play a specific way, and the players didn't click right off the bat, and then he had to revert a little bit back and be a little bit more defensive to kind of fix the midfield problems and the defenders being dreadful problem. And then I think he's trying to find a way kind of back to where we were last year, trying to find a way to get a little bit better going forward. It's not there yet. And whether it comes or not is obviously up for debate, but I think that's a lot of what's happened to him, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving on to tomorrow's opposition, Karabag. So just some stats around Karabag. They are currently 18th in the Champions League table on 10 points. They are 2 points clear of cut-off, which is 25th place, which is a position that Napoli holds. So they can get as high as 14th. So they're going to be there or thereabouts. I think really interesting is what the previous games that they've played. So those 10 points have come from beating Benfica away, and they won 3-2. Beat Copenhagen at home 2-0. They then lost to Bilbao away 3-1. Drew with Chelsea at home 2-2. Lost Napoli away 2-0. Lost to Ajax at home 4-2. And beat Frankfurt at home 3-2. They've only failed to register in one game this campaign. So definitely for me, they become to score at Anfield and see if they can expose some of the uncertainty. What do you guys think?
I'm not having a team from Azerbaijan or wherever they're from. I'm getting a result. I just even with a second string team, can't see it. I'd go 3-0. They might nick one because of our defensive issues and lack of players available. I'm going to go 3-1.
Well, just before I come to Kate, interesting point, Cole. You say that you're not having they're going to come to Anfield and win. Bear in mind, PSV came to Anfield and won, and they're on 8 points in 20 seconds. So it can happen and has happened. What about you, Kate?
I'm sticking with me. And in fact, I'm going to put my head on the line. I'm going to go 3-0, not 3-1.
Go on. Kate, how about you?
Yeah, they're a really interesting team if you watch. And they caught Benfica early. But if you notice, outside the Benfica game, all their results have come at home for the most part. And all their losses have come on the road. And there's plenty of reason for that. They're not great, number one. And number two, it's really difficult to travel from Azerbaijan to anywhere in Europe, let alone all the way to England, which makes it kind of funky, which makes it difficult for a team like Chelsea when you go all the way out there. And the altitude is a little bit funky, and the way you have to travel because you're got so many games is you got a game on Sunday, and when you travel in, and then the day before, you don't have time to really get used to the time period or anything like that. So I would be pretty surprised if they came over here and won the game outright. I'm not like super surprised at much right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and score. They are going to sit and break. They like to sit and break, and we've had trouble with teams who sit and break a little bit. Still think we win the game. I think we put out a good team. I'm not like expecting a rotated team necessarily outside of whoever's going to play that second center back spot, I guess. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think they've definitely got to play a full strength team. I think look, on the face of it, Liverpool should be winning this game and should be winning it comfortably. We all know that. We know at times that hasn't happened. And one of the I guess one of my nervousness and concerns is you could just as easily see this Liverpool side sitting on 70 minutes and it being 0-0. And then it starts to become a really tense, nervous game. The crowd then start getting twitchy. It can change the whole dynamic. So that's my nervousness going in tomorrow. I just think Karabag can score. And if Karabag can get, Liverpool go 1-0 up or it even goes 1-1, again, those nerves start to come in. So yeah, that's my worry. But as we're all saying, sitting here today on the Tuesday before, Liverpool should win comfortably. They should finish in that top 8. Fingers crossed we're all saying that on Friday as well.
I just
Yeah,
Googled
hopefully.
it. They normally spend about £1 million a season on transfers.
I think I've spent that in Anfield just alone on beer and tickets in my lifetime. so gonna cut to Kate to go with some betting, but I'm just gonna give my prediction for tomorrow. So tomorrow it's an Acker's dream, I think, really, boys. So you've got so many games on tomorrow. Now I don't know which 8. I'm gonna pick 8, but I think there are 8 games within those Champions League games tomorrow that are all ripe for more than 2.5 goals. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to pick 8. I don't know which 8 yet, but I think there's going to be goals. So that's definitely my prediction.
Put it on the Instagram page feed. Put yourself out there.
Oh, I will. Colt, listen, you threw me under the fucking bus last week with the predictor. Thanks very much. I do the editing. I see what goes into it. You shit. So listen, I'm not the expert. Kate's our expert. That we rely on him, but I'm putting myself out there. I think tomorrow there's going to be goals in 8 games. I'll pick the 8 games. I'll see how I go, and then watch not even one coming. So that's probably what'll happen.
You're going to get the typical static final day, can't lose this game, 1-1 in all of them pretty much.
Yeah, and to be fair, that I'm looking for the differentials. So I'm looking to go, right, who's got the most to gain and who's got the most to lose. And they're the ones where you're going to get the teams going for it a little bit. The ones where, you could be at, and for example, last time around, Liverpool and Barcelona were sat in the top slots. They probably weren't too bothered who finished first or second because it doesn't really matter. But from those games, and Liverpool went to PSV, got beat. Feels as a weakened side. But I think there's going to be games where it can make or break, either finishing in that top 8 or even finishing in the top 24. So yeah, I'll put it on the Insta and see what comes up.
After you've posted your 8 games over 2.5 goals, I might do 8 games under 2.5 goals.
That's all right, Colin. I'll be a fucking millionaire, so don't worry about it. But I'll be like Del Boy and Rodney, Trotters Independent Traders, tit just above the head.
You got to find the 2 teams that are playing each other that both have to win. Like 2 teams that are just outside their next group up with like a point or 2 points gets you up, and both of them have to have a go. The second that first goal goes in, everything just breaks loose because everybody has to win. You go up and down, up and down.
Yeah, it'd be like a scene from Rocky then. Just going toe to toe, slugging it out, and we see what happens.
Exactly.
So, Kate, are we covering betting this week? Have you got some things for us?
Yeah, for the weekend, the Champions League ones I don't bet a ton because I don't have numbers. Like I couldn't tell you much about half of these teams in here, really. But for the Premier League, I have a couple. First one is Sunderland money line. They are playing Burnley, and there's one thing I wanted to bring up particular with that, but I like Sunderland to win the game. Burnley have been like skating by recently. They've been battered like 5 games running and continue to come out with 2-2s somehow. So I kind of want to go against that. And with the Sunderland side that are clinical and stuff like that, here we go. Last 5 games, Burnley have reached 1 expected goal 3 times, and they've given up more than 1 expected goal in every single one of those games. They've given up 2.05, 3.18, 2.55, 1.45, 2.31, 1.41, and 0.85. And they have 5 draws in those games. They should be getting outscored like 4-15 across those 7 games, and they've gotten 5 draws somehow. They to say they snuck a draw from us would be an understatement. They snuck a draw from United, a bit of an understatement. One at Bournemouth, a bit of an understatement. So I kind of like Sunderland here just to see Burnley come down just a little bit, even if it's just conceding goal luck at this stage. So I like Sunderland. Liverpool and Newcastle under 3 is one I like also. Newcastle love to go on the road and kill games. Like Newcastle's goal when they like the manager's point on the road is 0-0. It feels like anywhere they go. And it's the Liverpool side who aren't creating a ton right now. They've been focusing a little bit more on being solid at the back and making sure they don't give up silly things at the back end. And it's kind of come from taking away the front end a little bit. So I think that's a slow one. And we've talked last week about Newcastle when they played Wolves and nothing really happened. I could kind of see that happening at Anfield over the weekend. And the last one is an accumulator. Chelsea money line. They're playing West Ham. West Ham have won 2 straight. I still don't think they're very good. And it's a Chelsea side again. I like in games where the back line is going to be a little bit higher at home there. And then Fulham plus 2.5. United have been all right under Carrick, and they've come off 2 gigantic wins. But a lot of luck box outside the goal or outside the box, wonder goal type stuff has been getting them results. I'm not so sure to lose this one, they really got to batter Fulham, and Fulham have been solid and quietly winning games. And I don't know if they go over here and lose 3-0. So Fulham plus 2.5 with Chelsea.
Cool. Great picks, and I say with United, there could be a bit of new manager bounce, and that's the impact. And 2 great results for them. You can't take it away, and especially the results of the weekend. Interesting, Arsenal. Looking at them, one of the things they do struggle with is a traditional top 6 side. They've really poor in those kind of games. They've taken very, very few points. They're living up to the flat track bully name, I think, Arsenal, and with 4 points in it. I said it a few podcasts ago. I think Arsenal will get caught, and I think City will get them.
Arsenal, it went for Arteta. It went from we haven't lost to a top 6 side in God knows how long, and then all of a sudden that just with your expectations that flips, and it's like you're not winning these games. You got to be winning these games now outright, and to drop that at home, we took 4 points off them this season. Like you got to start winning those ones now, and the way they play makes it pretty difficult when there's so much talent everywhere. Like a set piece goal can only get you so far when you're going up against a team that's capable of scoring goals like Cunha scores. Like these are talented players. You can't just leave talented players alone at the top of the box to have free shots and hope that you come across it like you do when you're playing like a Burnley or something. So that went from look how tough we are to a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Cole, any thoughts?
No, I think Arsenal, for me, like a lot of teams, they lack a forward, don't they? I think, yeah, I'm surprised they bought one in the summer. I think in the summer we were saying he looks too slow. He doesn't look quick enough for the Premiership, and I think that's been proven since we said that. We said that a couple of times before he'd even played a game for Arsenal. Obviously, Jesus has been injured, hasn't he? So for me, that's what they're probably lacking. But they've got so much talent in midfield. It amazes me that Eze starts a lot of games on the bench because I think he's brilliant.
Same, absolutely same. I don't
again,
understand
it just shows how much talent they've got in midfield. But he seems to favour people that can get across the pitch like Rice and those sort of players, doesn't he? So yeah, Leeds will be interesting. They should beat Leeds all day long, but Leeds are quite a physical team, and Arsenal rely on set pieces. But I think Leeds could combat that. So I think they'll have to score an open play against Leeds.
Yeah, I was going to say Leeds are really interesting because their first 60 minutes of games, they're really good. Like they press, they get on you. They have a little bit of an issue scoring from open play, and that's more of a talent thing up front. But the pressing system's really nice, and they get themselves into really good positions, and they press really well, and they're really good. And then they run out of energy, and just the back end of their games, they just kind of sit on the back foot. So they'll probably need to get ahead early. But it was very like the Everton game, really good for the first half hour, and then they just kind of ran out of it. And Everton kind of had the last half hour, found a goal, could have found another one. But for a good hour there, every game they're worth it. So if they can get an early goal, they can get something, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. They really tired against Everton, didn't they? And Everton came on so strong the back end of that second half. Maybe that's a bet. But used to do a bet, or I used to do a bet many years ago, where it was one team to be leading at half time, the other team to win. And it used to be about 25-1. So that might be a bet. That Leeds to be winning at half time, but Leeds to lose based on that, Kurt.
Yeah, I'll have to check. Let me check now and see what that pays out. But yeah, Leeds are probably good for that.
Maybe not against Arsenal, maybe against other teams. Them to be leading, them to lose.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Leeds, they had the Everton game, and then it happened with United. They went ahead there, lost it in the back half. The Newcastle game, they went ahead three separate times, lost that game outright 4-3. So it's something they do all the time. Went ahead, or no, not that one, but that happens all the time. As for the win the game, win the half, and then lose the game. Let's see if we can find it. Leeds are 4-1 to win the first half, and then to lose the game, I guess, would be Arsenal. You're getting 20-1 on that, if you like.
It's might be worth £1 or two.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys had seen the stat about Leeds and more relevant, Calvert-Lewin. It was a few weeks ago now, so it might have changed. But there was one of the heat maps about where all of his goals have come from. And literally every single one, a straight line from the penalty spot to goal. Absolutely bang in the middle. So, he really is just parked in that keeper's area. And that's where he gets all his goals, and fair play to him.
Yeah, I did see that one. That was pretty great. I've never seen anything like that. That was it was genuinely a straight gifted line from the 6-yard box to the penalty spot. And that's where he has to score his goal. They've done a good job of getting him into good positions, because Everton never did that. Everton, or toward the end, never did that. Everton had him playing like a regular forward and like having him drift wide and come in. And you're like, why isn't Calvert-Lewin playing well? I'm like, well, Calvert-Lewin can't really run anymore. You got to get him into the box. So
Yeah.
Everton are kind of wasting their own time with him playing out wide. But
yeah, was that under Sean Dyche? Was it? Did Sean Dyche have him run the channels as opposed to getting in the box and getting goals? Must have been. Was Dyche was before Moyes, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ancelotti one, wasn't it? And Ancelotti told him, "Where you go? Just get yourself in the box. You're the centre forward. That's where you need to be."
He's done well. He's done well under Ancelotti, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
As the assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
okay.
Okay.
Ancelotti just seems to go out and tell players to do whatever they like or whatever they're good at, and he's just like, "Go play." Like they do well enough.
On the if you watch John Barnes on the overlap, that's what Barnes says as well when he went to Liverpool from Watford, which we spoke about at the start of the pod. And the advice to him was, because a lot of the game for Watford was about him getting down the wing and putting crosses in, but Liverpool played different. And then he asked the coaches how he should adapt, how he should move, and they just said to him, "You'll figure it out." That's what he said, and he did. He figured it out. So maybe there's something in that.
There's particularly at a place like Real Madrid, him and Zidane, like Zidane didn't have, like everyone's like, I can't wait for Zidane to like coach France and stuff, which I think he'd be good there because they're so talented. But Zidane played at Real Madrid, and Ancelotti like figured it out. Like if you let really talented players do what they're good at, they're probably just going to find a way to win games. And you have the most talented squad in the world most of the time at Real Madrid. Just let them do whatever they feel good at doing, and you're going to end up with results.
Yeah, you're paying that money for a reason, aren't you? I think Lewandowski said that about Klopp as well. I think when he was at Borussia Dortmund, and Klopp said that to him. There's a reason why we've bought you, why you're the main striker. Is it for you to think for yourself? So yeah.
Klopp has said that recently as well in interviews and stuff, where he's like, you got to stop like fitting players into your system and let good players are good because they know what they're doing. You can let them have a little bit of freedom to play a little bit of football, and you stop putting them in like Pep takes players and turns them into his system. Like a player go like you take Grealish from Villa and pull him out of midfield where he's free to do what he likes and roam and stuff, and you stick him on the left wing, and you're wondering why Grealish isn't working at Manchester City. And Pep has a good system, so that's okay for Pep, but it doesn't work necessarily for everyone else. You can't just like fit talented players into square peg and a round hole type thing.
Yeah, let them play. Let them play. That's the idea, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Next week's pod, we've got a lower league manager coming on next week. So Lee Allison, who manages for Hamel Hempstead, is that the right words for it? So I think they're in. You'll have to check this, Paul, but I think they're in the 6th tier, and they're currently in the playoffs. So he's happy to come on. So it'd be good to get a bit of insight from him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we'll have Ian, so there'll be a manager to manager talk with Ian, obviously, with Brookvale Albion, getting his tips in like he was with John the other week. So yeah, that's really good. Obviously, we'll have some more music as well. No Ian with us tonight, so we'll have some tunes to play. None for this week, but we'll pick back up next week. Absolutely. So, boys, unless there's anything else to cover, I think that's it.
Enjoyed that. Thanks, chaps.
Cool. Right, Cole, go get your tea. Kate, probably go get your lunch for yourself by the time you're there.
No casinos this week, Kurt.
I was there over the weekend. I'd planned a trip there, and we'd gone for the fights and the Paddy Pimblett fight and the NFL games the day after, and we caught it during the big snowstorm that's kind of swept across the country over the last week or so. So we missed all of it, or I didn't miss it, but I was in the casino. I didn't have to worry about it. And then you get out, and there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, and it's -3 degrees all week. So we caught the casino at a good time over the weekend.
Not the worst place to get locked in, Kate. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
It would be for me.
Yeah, snow was brutal. We had, as I said, we had 2 feet over a couple days. The only reason the casino was running was because they were giving free rooms out to the employees. You stay the night, get a little bit of overtime, work the 2 days. You don't have to drive, can't drive in it for sure. So there you go.
To tell you a story about one of our friends who went to a horse race, had a really good time the horse race, and won quite a bit of money. So he was with his wife, and he decided to go to the casino. Went to the casino, got the drinks in. She went to toilet, came back to drinks, and he said, "Get your coat, we're going." And he'd lost all the money in that time. What she came in, went to the toilet, and came back. True story.
Jeez, that's good.
And we know it is, Cole. We know it is.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Cool. Boys, great one. Really enjoyed that. Thanks very much. So yeah, this will be going out Friday. We'll get it out, and hopefully all of our bets come up. Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Catch you later.